being the number 3 pick. Now, potentially, with Drew Allar, who's playing tonight for Penn State, maybe he is going to be in play for this team. You're hearing reports about maybe the Giants wanting to trade for J.J. McCarthy, which just makes no sense. Trade the 3rd pick for McCarthy. You heard Evan yesterday talk about Aaron Rodgers potentially for the Giants. I think this is a clear situation, unlike the Jets, where you're looking for more of a stopgap. I think the Giants got to find a franchise guy now. There can be no more kicking the can down the road or punting. This regime needs to identify whoever they think is the next franchise quarterback of the Giants and hit the ground running as soon as next season.
I agree. That's something they obviously have to do. I'll tell you what, Sal, I think tonight's Penn State Notre Dame game is the biggest game of the Giants season. It wasn't Dallas and it wasn't Philly. It wasn't any other game that they played. This is the biggest game of the Giants season. I don't know if Drew Allar's going to come out, but Giant fans, if you even if you're not a big college football fan, if you are not dialed into every single snap of this young man tonight, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. He's got an absolute cannon. He is huge. He's 6'5", 240. Now, he doesn't run like, say, a Josh Allen, but he's a little bit more nimble than they certainly think Peyton or Tom Brady, and he's bigger than them. He's raw. The knock on Drew Allar, he didn't play a ton as a freshman. I think he only threw 60 passes, and he's got fewer than 30 starts. And you look at players, we went through this with Zach Wilson. We've gone through this with others. When you don't play X amount of games, Mark Sanchez, back in the day, USC, there's ample evidence that it's obviously that it doesn't work out favorably if you're not quite ready, and then you get swallowed up by the NFL machine. If he comes out there tonight, this is why it opens up everything. If he comes out, and even if they don't win, if he just does well against Notre Dame's defense, which is insane, and I don't necessarily think Notre Dame is going to lose tonight, but if Allar flashes big time and he declares for the draft, and they push this back, he now has until January 24th because of the expanded college playoffs. These college quarterbacks have more time to make the decision. If he comes out, now everything opens up for the Giants. They don't have to necessarily try to trade up and give a ton of draft stock to get either Sanders or Ward, who I don't love anyway. Listen, if you ask me, of the 3 players, Cam Ward, Sanders, or Drew Allar, who I would rather have in 2 years or 3 years, it's Drew Allar. You just need him to come out. Yes, and you just need him to come out, and he's not coming out unless he plays well tonight.
Now, here's the other part of this thing. First of all, I'm not there with you. If you were to ask me which quarterback of the 3 I'd want,
I'd say Ward.
Yeah, I would want Cam Ward.
I like Ward over Sanders, to be clear,
And I would go, now I want to watch tonight and see a little more of Allar. I want a mobile quarterback. I think it's time to evolve. I don't want a pure pocket passer who looks like a stiff back there.
He's not a stiff.
Yeah.
He's not a stiff.
I got to watch him more. I want to see him tonight, but from the stuff that I watched, he looked just like he couldn't move. So obviously I'd lean more than toward Cam Ward or even Shedeur Sanders over Allar. But forget about what you or I would want. And again, we could watch them and see and maybe make a decision after tonight, moving forward, whatever. Who's going to be there is the bigger key to me. Giants aren't going to trade up. Let's assume Allar has a big game, whatever, even if they lose or whatever. He makes the decision to come out because he feels like he wants to get picked in the top 3. And I do think if he comes out, he's going to get picked in the top. Like, logic would tell you that the way the drafts and the league is going right now, it's going to be about the quarterbacks. If he does declare that he wants to come out, is Cleveland going to take him? Are we going to get in a situation where the Giants were going to have Sanders anyway, and maybe Allar would just cement that? I mean, Deion has come out and said that he's not going to dictate where his son goes.
Yeah, but publicly he's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
Deion.
You would think he's not going to go to Cleveland. Like he's going to let his son go play in Cleveland with that?
I don't think so. I think he's going to try to flex, and I don't blame him on some level. Archie Manning did it. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So as it stands right now, even without Allar in the picture, I still think the Giants' most likely quarterback is Shedeur Sanders. Now, if you bring Allar in the picture,
but they'd move up to get him.
No, I think
because the Browns wouldn't take him. They would do that.
Exactly,
manipulate things.
Now, if Allar's in the picture, maybe even more so, it solidifies Shedeur. Like, do the math. The Titans are likely going to take Cam Ward, right?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, okay.
I would.
Me too, and I think that they like him. Now, we don't even know who's the GM there.
Who's the GM?
But I would assume that the Titans are going to take Cam Ward and probably screw him up, and in 3 or 4 years be looking for somebody else.
Fair assumption.
So then I do think that it comes down to what Cleveland is either going to be forced to do or what they want to do. I guess Allar, Maresh just texted me about him during the week, and he's texted me again this morning. I told you Allar's going to be a big deal. I told you Allar's going to be, okay, here we go. Let's watch it tonight with Penn State. But apparently he's from Cleveland, like his dream is to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. It just seems like it fits. I don't know if Allar is for the Giants or if it just cements that Shedeur Sanders is going to be the New York Giants' next quarterback.
Well, I don't know either, but what it would do is it would cement an option, and it would also cement the fact or the very strong possibility that the Giants would not have to part with, I know I keep saying this, but this is really important to me. The Giants are not good enough. Their talent base is not strong enough to give up whatever it's going to take, whether it's 1 or 2 slots to get whomever they want. And if Allar comes out, yeah, there's a chance. The beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So I'm sitting here, I'm saying, for me, it will be Cam Ward and Allar, 1A. And right now I'm still favoring Cam Ward, but Allar over Sanders myself. Now, that doesn't mean that the Titans view it that way. That doesn't mean that the Browns view it that way. That doesn't mean that the Giants view it that way. Here's the other thing that could happen as well. If Allar comes out and just rips it up tonight, but the Giants want somebody more mobile, and they don't love Allar as much as others, and the Giants could then still, it's an inviting position at 3 to trade down
and still not lose the player that you want.
Well, no, they don't. See, I'm of the mindset that I know that this is where you and I disagree a little bit. The Giants, I don't want them to force a quarterback. I know they've got to get the dude in here eventually to see what the hell they have with Dable and the staff. I get that. You can't kick this down the road for a decade, but I'm of the mindset I'm not reaching, because when you reach, you make it worse.
Okay, but then what is your option going to be? Because in theory,
stopgap. I know. Justin Fields.
And by the way, they have said they're not going to do that.
Well, they say that. They can say whatever. What do I say? It's not what you say. It's what you do.
Understood.
Let's see what they do.
But the owner basically saying we got to find our quarterback. So I'm not disagreeing with you in theory. I think that they put themselves in a spot where they do have to take a quarterback. Doesn't mean you have to draft one, but you have to find one. If it's Justin Fields, guess what? Then that is not a stopgap quarterback. They are going to be expected to win games with Justin Fields as their franchise quarterback. That's just the reality. Like, if they trade, and Mel Kiper, I guess, had this, trade the number 3 pick for J.J. McCarthy. Now, why would you? Where is he even coming up with this stuff? You're telling me a team that wouldn't take the quarterback with the number 6 pick last year because they didn't love him, or now a year later after he got hurt for the year, going to trade a number 3 pick to get him? Like, that is just asinine. That would make no sense. I think the Giants organization would get ripped to shreds if they ever made that deal. But the point is, BT, they're going to have to find a quarterback one way or another. I don't care if you draft one. I don't care if you trade for one. Go sign one. They need a franchise quarterback. And I believe the best option is probably Sanders at this point, meaning Ward's going to be off the board. I personally don't love Allar, and I also think he's a better fit maybe for Cleveland because of him being there. And I think Shedeur and his father are maybe going to force their way to the Giants. So I think it's Shedeur Sanders, and I would rather have that option than even Allar.
Well, listen, I got you. I mean, the more options they have, the more chances they have to make the wrong decision, but the more chances they have to make the right decision. Right. So, I think too, and this I feel very strongly about. Listen, I do want to see Allar move around a little bit more. I want to see how, not so much can he turn the corner and, rip off 30 yards like Lamar. I know he's not that, but does he manipulate space? Like Tom Brady was slow as dirt. We all saw his 40-yard dash at the combine, but Tom Brady was a master of just stepping up subtly and understanding spatial awareness and what's around him and creating a pocket. I'm not saying that Drew Allar does that, although I know that from point A to point B, Drew Allar is absolutely faster than somebody like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. But, no, I know. I'm just trying to say he's not slow. And I will say this, as much as I still need to watch Drew and form some more opinions, I strongly, if not I know he throws the football better than both Ward and Sanders. And one thing that you got to do in MetLife, in the Meadowlands, in that part of New Jersey, we kind of forgot this over the years. You got to be able to let it rip through the winds, and you got to spin it. Yeah. And this kid could fling it.
And by the way, even if I maybe don't love that pick because I want a more mobile quarterback, that doesn't matter. As long as the Giants, whoever they decide is their guy with the options that they have, like they may love Cam Ward just like they love Jaden Daniels or Drake May, and then they can do about it because they don't have the number 1 pick. But of Sanders or out, assuming he comes out, they are going to have a pick of one of those 2 guys or one of those 3. One of those 3 will be there at number 3, assuming Allar comes out, and we'll see what happens after tonight. And then it's up to Brian Dable and Joe Sheen to decipher the right one, or whichever one I guess is there, and if they love him enough, and then turn him into a franchise quarterback, or to your point before, if they don't love one of the three, do they just take one because they have to, or do they trade back, get a better player, and then go decipher what other quarterback on the market is going to be their franchise, not stopgap, franchise quarterback, which is why I wouldn't want a guy like Rodgers for them.
And I heard Evan. I love Evan. I thought that was nuts, though. And listen, I just can't stand the concept of reaching. Because you need a quarterback. You got to take one because then you start seeing things that aren't there. You start convincing yourself. That's how the Jets have gotten in trouble over the years. That's probably how the Giants got in trouble with Daniel Jones. Bottom line is this. We'll get these calls going.
Yeah.
Giant fan, this is a massive night for the Giants. It's going to be one of two things that happens tonight, all right? Allar plays well, and who cares if Penn State wins? Allar plays well, jumps into the draft, and makes the Giants' life a lot more interesting in terms of either taking him or Sanders or Ward falling to them. Right. Or if they don't love whomever's left, they could trade out and still get some more draft capital. Or Allar plays well and doesn't come out still because he's young. He's only 20. Yeah. He's still very young. He'd be among the youngest kids in the draft. Or he plays okay, not enough to embolden himself to jump into the draft. And now the Giants get left with no quarterback because they're at number 3 and the two guys go 1-2.
Right, so it's a huge thing.
It's a huge night for the Giants.
One scenario is we're just assuming that Cam Ward goes number 1 to the Titans.
Well, I'm not assuming it. I like him better.
No,
I'm not assuming it.
But I'm saying, like, we're in our scenarios and our hypotheticals, well, what happens if the Titans say, hey, you know what? We love Allar.
Oh, yeah, very, very, very possible.
They take Allar number 1, and now the Giants, if they love Ward, maybe they cross their fingers and hope that they can get Ward.
But you can't get Ward. You can't get lucky if there's only 2 guys in the draft because you're not taking Jalen Milroe, like you're not taking Milroe from Alabama. Again, I don't want to muddy the waters. Yes, you could always, like, if he comes out, Allar, and the Giants don't love any of them, or they don't love the one that's there, could they conceivably trade down and take Jalen Milroe at 15 or 8? Yeah, there's other options down the road, but this is the most obvious one.
BT and Sal on the Fan and friends at Town Fair Tire. Remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. 888-808-1019. John is in Masspeth. What's up, John?
BT and Sal, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, John.
Hello, John.
Yeah. So this Drew Allar kid, I've actually been watching him for the last 2 years. I'm in a fantasy football league where you can draft college players, and you hold on to them during college, and then when they become pros, they're on your team. So I've actually had him on my fantasy team now for the last 2 years, and I've watched him a lot, and I actually called into another show, I think it was Danielle, about 2 months ago, and spoke about how the Giants should try to draft him in the second round. If there's one player who I can compare him to, Ben Roethlisberger. I see a lot of Ben Roethlisberger in this guy. Big guy.
He is big.
Hard to take down. He's got a cannon. He could scramble. He could scramble kind of like Big Ben could.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of the same type of player in him.
Scramble.
A lot of the same type.
Thank you for the call, John. We
Thanks,
appreciate
John.
you checking in. Scramble is not, to me, what Jaden Daniels can do offensively. Forget Lamar Jackson. He's another level. But the way the game has evolved, I want a quarterback who can be a true dual threat. And I don't think Allar is that. I think that he's a guy that's going to... Now, look, you watch him throw the football. He throws a beautiful football.
But best by far better than the other two.
Correct. Not even close. But that's just what, like, with the visuals, the way that he looks like a quarterback. Mm-hmm. The way he throws the football much better. Even the mechanics, the footwork, that's the one thing I didn't love about Sanders. But Sanders' mobility is next level in comparison to Allar here. So it depends what Dable thinks. First of all, it depends on who's going to be there. And then what Dable wants from his system. I don't think Allar, though, is going to be what Josh Allen was to Buffalo. He's going to be more, he's not that type of runner, at least not based on what I'm seeing in the film here. And by the way, what he looks, and the same people said this about Sam Darnold. Like, would you say Sam Darnold in the NFL is a mobile quarterback or a quarterback who can make plays with his legs?
I think he's more mobile than people think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I know what you mean.
Coming out of USC,
yeah,
everybody was like, oh, he can run. And I remember watching it saying, yeah, he could run at college. But when the game speeds up at the next level, That's not going to cut
He's
it.
put some guys on skates. I remember he did that to Denver as a Jet in the open field. Like I think he's selling him short a little bit. He's not Lamar.
Well,
he's not Josh Allen.
He's not fast.
Well, he's not slow. He ain't slow, Sam Darnold. He's not.
In the NFL, I do think he's slow, and I think he's more of a pocket
Eli
passer.
was slow.
Well, Eli couldn't
Vinny
move.
Testaverde was slow.
But that's next level. That's like tortoise
pace.
There's a difference between Lamar and Eli. There's a big gap in there. And even if you come down another notch, I still think Allar, like, to me, he's not even Ryan Tannehill. Sam Darnold.
No, Ryan Tannehill's a pretty good athlete.
Yeah, he could run.
I look at Tannehill as even quicker than Sam.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, but when Sam was coming out of college, people were saying he was a running quarterback. I never got that feel. I get that same feel with Allar here, that he's not going to be a running quarterback. Now, doesn't mean that he can't be the best of the bunch by far. Who knows? That's just one thing, an element that I would like to see. Corey's in Tom's River. What's up, Corey?
What's happening, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good morning. Hey, I just want to run two names past you as far as bridge quarterback, because I think it's obvious, right? Like, the Giants aren't going to get, or they're not going to be in a position unless they give up the house for Ward or Sanders this year, right? So, like, it looks like they're going to have to get some.
Yeah, that's the whole point. We're talking about Allar here. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Allar I'm a big Michigan fan, and so I'm familiar with the Big Ten.
Yep.
I don't know. He has some physical attributes that are appealing, but I don't know. It just doesn't. Okay. He doesn't strike me. Anyway, so moving on.
He throws the hell out of the ball.
Yes, he does.
I'm watching highlights here. I mean, I've been doing that for the last 8 minutes or so. I mean, he throws the hell out of it. I'm excited to watch the game tonight.
Me too.
Yeah, he does. He has a rocket for an arm, honestly. But until this playoff, right, like, Penn State's narrative was they couldn't win the big game.
Right, but he's only been there a couple years. He's 20 years old.
Yeah, and I don't care about that. That should not matter when you're looking to take a quarterback.
That's all right. So moving along, right? That was the point that I was calling in, though, for, right? Like, Daniel Jones' biggest issue was turning over the ball, right? And Brian Dable came here, and it was discussed yesterday that Brian Dable corrected his turnover issues in year one, right? He got hurt year two, whatever, right? So if you're looking for a veteran QB, people have been, yesterday Evan was talking about Aaron Rodgers.
No.
Yeah, I know. I agree. So what do you guys think about possibly, like, a Jameis Winston, for instance?
For the Giants.
For the Giants, just as a bridge quarterback.
Thank you for the call, Corey. For me, BT, I don't want a bridge quarterback. Why would you be okay with a bridge quarterback with this regime where the Giants are at right now?
Because what I've always said, when you just reach for somebody to satisfy the demand and the need for the franchise quarterback, you can make it worse. Now, you can also make it better. Right. If you actually reach and it works out well, but you can just dig the hole a whole lot deeper. I think the biggest difference, not that it's always Jets Giants, but because Rodgers and that came up yesterday with the Giants. The biggest difference is that the Jets' talent base is significantly higher than the Giants.
They're closer to winning now.
Boom. So anything, if you don't love the quarterback at 3 that you're going to have access to, trade out.
Right.
Or take whomever you want, like Travis Hunter, a stud at 3.
And like I said, in theory, I'm not disagreeing with you. But then you factor in Shane and Dable going into year 4 without ever drafting their own or bringing in their own franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
And also, stopgap to me, like, how many, like, the owner said it. We could say what's right or wrong. The owner said 2 things. 1, we need to get a franchise quarterback. 2, they better win next year. Those are like, he's already putting them, and this is why we said this on Monday, and you were saying specifically, like, this is the worst spot that you could be in.
Yeah, where's the contract extension? Made no sense.
Yeah, right. Like, those 2 things are clear indicators of he or they, the organization, has put themselves in a spot where they're going to be forced to take a quarterback beyond just a stopgap guy.
Well, you know what it is, Sal? This is going to sound really harsh. I don't care about Shane and Dable because I don't believe in them. Okay. I care about the Giants.
Okay, so you're saying...
So I'm less concerned about them finding their guy, and I'm a lot more concerned with the Giants building up their woeful talent base so they can finally win some divisional games.
So in your scenario, let's just say there's no good quarterback there. Allar doesn't come out, whatever it may be. Giants don't love any of the options that are there. Trade down, get more picks, build it out.
Absolutely. Or take Travis Hunter or somebody that you love at 3.
Exactly.
Like a stud.
They go 5 and whatever next year.
Gone.
And then start over.
No, then you find a quarterback.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. I mean, but if you're trying to evaluate this regime, they kind of need a quarterback. And regardless of what you or I think is the right thing to do, they're going to have to find a quarterback. BT and Sal on the Fan Warrior calls when we come back. 888-808-1019.